Hello, everybody. Welcome into Lower League America from Compass Football. Jason Davis here with you, as always, joined by Nipun Chopra from SockTakes.com. Nipun, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, Jason. Good to be back with you again.
Good to be back with you. Show me some energy. I need some energy today, Nipun.
Good to be back with you again.
Perfect. We have a very exciting interview coming up. We're going to welcome in Sheldon Grizzle, co-founder and president of Chattanooga FC. And they are the focus of the show today, the fan ownership scheme that Chattanooga FC has started. 1,400 plus people at the time of recording have invested in this club. Before we get into some of the nuts and bolts with Chattanooga FC and maybe touch on another story in lower league soccer in America, Nipun, do your shout out.
Shout out today for the first time is a UPSL team, a league, an adult amateur league that we don't talk too much about, but an aggressively expanding league. One of their teams is Bug Eaters FC, based out of Lincoln, Nebraska, playing in the Midwest Conference in the UPSL. Really cool name, really cool nickname that is, with Bug Beaters, which became the name of the team. And, you know, cool swag. I recommend you check them out. They have some cool T-shirts and stuff too. So
yeah, and shout out to the Cooligans who have their name on the Bug Eaters jersey, or at least did last year. I know they've been out to Omaha to see Bug Eaters FC play. So
did I say Bug Beaters? I meant Bug Eaters. If I said
you did say Bug Beaters, which sounds no, that's not right. It's Bug Eaters.
Bug Eaters FC. Yes.
I think it's a whole tractor thing, farming. I think it's in that area. You're in the middle of the country. You should know this. Never mind.
But yeah, good shout out to the Cooligans. Great podcast if you haven't checked it out yet.
Absolutely. All right. So again, we're going to get to Sheldon Grizzle from Chattanooga FC, and we're going to talk about the fan ownership situation there with Chattanooga FC. Before we do that, Nipun, I think it is important to hit on one of the stories that kind of is unfolding in lower division soccer. We know that NPSL Pro is going to be a thing. The Founders Cup coming. Chattanooga FC is participating in that. USL has rebranded and launched League One and now League Two, which is just essentially the PDL coming up and getting a new name. There's also NISA, which is still clouded in some mystery. We know some markets that they're targeting, but we don't know if they're going to be sanctioned yet. Do we have an update on where NISA sits right now?
Yeah, so I reached out to both NISA as well as the USSF within the last 48 hours, 72 hours. NISA personnel tell me that they're confident that it'll be worked out. What I mean is that they will receive sanctioning for fall 2019, but that the issues seem to stem around concerns over a couple of markets that may or may not meet the 10 million requirement for principal ownership in Division 3 team. USSF, on the other hand, tells me almost nothing. They basically said that they cannot comment due to legal or whatever excuse they have this time. The four markets that are announced so far, Jason, by NISA are Philadelphia, New England, Atlanta, and I'm forgetting the only four. I should know this. In fact, it's right in front of me. I should know this.
Okay.
And
well,
Charlotte.
Go ahead. Charlotte. Okay. Only one of those does not have an MLS team in it, which I think is interesting. And, you know, one of the things that NISA said when they announced Atlanta was this is one of the best soccer markets in the country. Well, it's one of the best soccer markets in the country because of what Atlanta United has done over the last couple of years in Major League Soccer. And it's interesting to see whether or not NISA is sort of piggybacking on that in Atlanta, maybe trying to exploit something in Philadelphia where the Philadelphia Union have not been overly successful. They made the playoffs, but haven't really done a lot. They don't spend very much money to keep up with their MLS peers, and their stadium is kind of far out. It's not close to downtown Philadelphia, and perhaps NISA found something to exploit in that market there. Charlotte is very interesting indeed as well. So NISA still trying to get their sanctioning for 2019. The fall schedule, remember they plan to go from fall to spring, a la all those European leagues people watch on television. Nipun, you're wearing Manchester United right there. You know all about that. All right, before we get into this discussion with Sheldon Grizzle from Chattanooga FC, let's just kind of outline what's going on there and talk about the nuts and bolts of this. This is fan ownership in a way that's never been seen in the United States. We've seen sort of fundraising, but I'm not sure we've seen investment on the part of fans.
We've sort of seen supporter-owned teams partially. We've seen that with SF City, San Francisco City FC, out obviously in San Francisco. A couple of other teams have explored this option. When NISA was starting under Peter Wilt, they kind of pivoted to this option briefly before Peter Wilt left. So it's been discussed, as you said, Jason, multiple ways, and iterations have appeared in other clubs. But I think this is, at least to the best of my knowledge, one of the most expansive and I'd say well thought out process, where you have anybody can really invest in this club at $125, I think, per share. There's an upper limit of investing about 10,000. I believe.
I think it's 8,000 shares.
8,000 shares. That's what it was. And the way it works, at least the way I understand it, Jason, ultimately these shares will allow you to attend all the meetings and stuff, but they don't directly give you a specific vote on the board. The way that'll work is all the people, the hundreds of people that have invested so far, will elect a representative who will serve on the board, and that's a really interesting wrinkle to this.
No, I think coming out of this, a question sort of bigger than what Chattanooga is aiming for right now is whether or not this can be replicated anywhere else, Nipun. And maybe this is the way to help bring capital into lower league teams in America in a place, and I'm sure we'll ask Sheldon about this, where promotion and relegation really isn't an option, and so you don't have a mass amount of sort of wealthy individual investment.
Yeah, it's the scalability and the repeatability of this, Jason, is interesting. The cynic in me says that there's a novelty factor here, Jason. Obviously, there's the first time it's been tried. Chattanooga is a team that's beloved across the country because of the Chattahooligans and how fun they are on Twitter, and just the general way the club carries itself, as well as the love the club has received because of the entry of Chattanooga Red Wolves. So this may be a Chattanooga-specific effect, a Chattanooga-specific phenomenon. And I don't know if a regular old club that is not a Detroit City FC, that is not a Chattanooga FC in the NPSL, that's not the Cosmos, that has a bunch of fans as well all over the country, will be able to recreate this incredible influx of capital that has come in from all over the place.
I think you have to have a very strong local base, and Chattanooga has been setting attendance records in NPSL for some time, for their entire history. At this point, they preceded Detroit City into that league, and obviously had major success. And again, that because of that attention they've gotten, because they've had such a response in Chattanooga, other people know about their story, and now you have people from all over the globe investing in this club. It is very interesting to see. We may have to see whether or not Chattanooga FC can thrive for a couple years before this type of thing becomes provably reliable as a plan for anybody else in the country, Nipun. So why don't we stop here, and when we come back, we'll talk to Sheldon Grizzle, co-founder and president of Chattanooga FC, about this incredible plan, fan ownership. Stick around. Back on Lower League America from Compass Football, Jason Davis and Nipun Chopra with you as always. And now we're happy to be joined by Sheldon Grizzle, the co-founder and president of Chattanooga FC. Thanks for stopping by, Sheldon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, obviously, fan ownership for Chattanooga FC, a big step, and this has got to be something that's intriguing for a lot of smaller clubs around the country. And we just have to ask first why Chattanooga FC decided to go down this path.
Yeah, you know, we started the club in 2009, and it's been on our minds since 2010. We've got a lot of friends of ours that are Green Bay Packers owners, shareholders. And then we've got a lot of other friends that grew up in Europe, and supporters trusts and supporter ownership is a very common thing in Europe. And so for us, the co-founders of Chattanooga Football Club, we're local entrepreneurs, we're local businessmen. We've got some local philanthropists on the board. It was always about the city and doing something great for the city, and using soccer as a way to do something great for the city. And so as a way to demonstrate our love for the city and our commitment to the city, we've always wanted to offer our fans and supporters the ability to buy into the club and have a shared future. And that's contrasted with franchises in most professional sports in America, where the franchise can literally be picked up and moved to a different city. And we've seen a lot of turmoil, in the NFL around that. The Columbus Crew and their fans went through this really tumultuous campaign over the last few years to to save the crew. And we never wanted to hold our city hostage, and we never wanted that to be a possibility. And so we've always had the long-term perspective, and having your fans own the club is part of that for us.
Sheldon, obviously you guys have been able to raise a significant amount of money. It's been a success so far, and I'm sure it'll continue to be so. Can you talk about where that money will be invested into, and how you guys plan on using that money that's raised?
Yeah, sure. Well, for our previous 10 seasons, we've been an amateur club, which means that we've run for basically 3.5 to 5 months a year. And the way my friend Sean Mann from Detroit City calls it, we were a t-shirt company the rest of the year. and so in order to switch from, half a year as a soccer club and half a year as a t-shirt company, we've got to professionalize our staff, which means we've got to build up a solid front office. We've got to begin to pay our players, which is something that we've never done. So for us, it's really about stabilizing the foundation of the business, and we're going to have to make some investments for that growth. And you guys know that there's some friendly competition that has recently moved into the Chattanooga area, and so that changes the dynamics a little bit. And so we just want to make sure that we've got a long enough runway so that we can put into place the things and the investments that we need to put in place as we ramp into this new model for us. And this was a piece of that. So we're excited about it.
Nipun said that this is already a success. I don't want to give out numbers. They'll have changed by the time we're done recording and by the time people watch this, Sheldon.
Right.
But just give me a sense as you watch those numbers change, your emotions around it, and maybe what you expected going in versus what's actually happened.
Nobody in American soccer has tried to do this the way that we're doing it. There are a few teams out there that do have supporters trusts. There are a few teams out there that have membership models that are, more on the nonprofit side. But as far as we could tell, there hasn't been a club that's done these direct equity investments. And so we literally had no idea. We had no expectations. We set our minimum pretty low at $50,000, just literally hoping that somebody would find this interesting enough to jump in and help support us. And so to say that we're shocked is an understatement. We are honored. We are proud. We're humbled. It's all the emotions. As I personally scroll through the list of investors, it literally brings me tears, tears of joy to see all these names of people that I've known over the years who have who aren't even Chattanooga Football Club fans. They're Chattanooga fans. They're glad that Chattanooga Football Club's in Chattanooga, but these aren't people that are watching EPL games and Champions League games, and they couldn't name that kind of stuff. And so for a long time, we've kind of joked that Chattanooga is not a soccer town. Chattanooga is Chattanooga Football Club's town. And we genuinely believe that. And we've helped build a culture of appreciation around soccer, but the vast majority of the people that are jumping into this campaign aren't soccer fans. They're Chattanooga Football Club fans, and they're Chattanooga fans.
Aside from the obvious personal interest that people have in buying these shares, there's also going to be a more tangible interest, which is the people investing in the club can elect a board member to join this CFC board. Can you kind of summarize how the CFC board is currently designed, and talk a little bit about that potential at-large board position?
Yeah, well, it's a very important position for us. Currently, we have a phenomenal relationship with our fans. We're very open, maybe even to a fault. We're very transparent. We're very accessible to our supporters, and that's kind of a turnoff to some people. And then it's worked pretty well for us in Chattanooga. This is a way for us to memorialize that engagement in a more official way, and and give them like a true seat on the board and a true vote in the direction of the club. This is not some token, token role. It's not a board observer. This is somebody that's going to have the interests of our supporters in mind, and they'll be in those meetings with us, every month, helping make some really good, hard decisions sometimes. The current board has 7 members. We're going to be adding 2 more from previous fundraisers that we've done over the last 6 months. So in total, we'll have about 10. We'll have 10 here very soon, and they're all local business people. Some of them are very high net worth individuals, and they all want to see the health and welfare of the city continue to grow, and do that through the sport of soccer.
You mentioned growth. Obviously, as you said, you're going to a professional model, moving from amateur. That's part of the reason to do this. Is there already a plan and something 5 years out, 10 years out? What is the ceiling for Chattanooga FC? I mean, we throw promotion and relegation to every show we do because it's the lack of it is a specter. Absolutely. But because of the lack of it here, there's only so far Chattanooga FC can go in terms of the tiers. But what is this, does the league matter? I know that's famous. Chattanooga's famous for the fans don't really care. They'll show up and support the club.
Yeah, they are. They've said club over league for a long time. 5 years out, it's so hard to predict what's going to happen in American soccer over the next 5 years. There's a lot of unknowns. And so for us, it's really about just staying true to who we are, what our culture is, that we're here for the good of the city. We're using soccer as a tool to make the city a better place. And if we execute well on the basics of what we're here to do, which is put a good product out on the field, create a great atmosphere in our stadium, create events that are engaging for our fans, away from soccer games, create an environment that really is like a, fertile soil that youth development can take root and grow, and we add all the nutrients in that are healthy and create an environment that allows soccer to flourish here. We're going to be just fine no matter what the soccer ecosystem around us does. And we believe that firmly. How all the leagues shake out, whether Pro Rel comes, I don't know. It would be awesome. I can tell you that the lack of it really inhibits the growth in the lower market games. And we have people on our board and that are owners in our club that have unbelievable net worth, and it would be really great to be able to unlock that with some upward expansion potential. And it's really hard to justify that quite yet. So we're going to work hard to just stay focused on what we're doing. And we believe that in 5 years, we'll be in a much better position than we are now. And we believe that the clubs that we're making this next step with are going to grow with us.
And then, of course, I got to ask the 500-pound red wolf in the room question here, which is, could any of this, first of all, have happened without what is, let me rephrase that. Would any of this have happened if the Red Wolves had not come into town, or at least immediately? And what other steps is the club taking to ensure that it is able to outcompete, as you described, some friendly neighbors in the city?
So this next step for a lot of these NPSL teams has been in motion for a while. It's been no secret. We haven't been shy about the fact over the last few years that we've been looking at various league options for us to grow. And so it's something that we've been pursuing for a while. And there were a couple things that had false starts most of it out of our control. And so last March, we invited about 30 ownership groups to Chattanooga to do the Summit for American Soccer. And it was really the best and brightest minds around independent soccer across the country. And most of them were in that, amateur division, but some of them were already professional or semi-professional. And we all came together to just talk about, what might something look like if we could all put our shoulders to the plow in one direction around this independent model. And so since March, there's been a dedicated team from the NPSL working towards, this next step for us. And so to say that the Red Wolves were like the catalyst for that is not accurate. It was happening all along. I think it's more likely the other way around, that this was going to happen. And there was a group of people that knew, we were taking this next step. And so they decided that they needed to do something about it.
Sheldon, to that point, and we do have a question from Twitter I want to get to, make sure we give the fans some love. But to that point, how do you feel about the USL and the ownership of the Red Wolves obviously seeing potential in Chattanooga because of what Chattanooga FC has done? Isn't that undermining what you're doing on some level? Certainly lots of people upset. Is it good for American soccer sort of in the big picture to have that sort of competition come to town?
That's a hard question to answer. I think that competition is healthy in any market. I've been an entrepreneur for, the last 10 or 15 years, and competition makes you better. It hones your focus. It makes you double down on what you're good at and, kind of leave to the side what you're not good at. So to say that it's been bad for us would be an overstatement. To say that it's good for the market, I think, would also be an overstatement. Chattanooga, frankly, is not big enough to support two teams. It's just not. And so the intentions are not friendly to come into this market. And so that's again why we have to stay focused on what we are doing. We can't wake up every day worrying about what somebody else is doing. So we got to think about who we are, what we're good at, and just execute on those every single day. And again, if we do those things in a sustainable and fiscally responsible way, we're going to be here in 100 years. And I am 100% convinced of that. And I think other professional models in soccer in the U.S. can't say that.
So let's get to our listener, our viewer question. This is from Chat W. Jonathan Hunter. He said, a few years back, when paths towards moving up didn't appear viable, CFC expanded down closer to the community. Can you tell us how the community projects have grown and what the next step is for the CFC Academy?
Oh, yeah, good questions. So the Chattanooga Football Club Foundation has long been a very important part of who we are and what we do. Last year, we were able to raise $750,000 for our foundation to go to work in some of our most challenged schools and some of our worst neighborhoods, and into our refugee and immigrant communities. And we're so proud of that work. And that's created a whole new, there's over 1,000 kids that are playing in a free-to-play system through our foundation that never would have been playing organized soccer. So we are honored to play a role in that, and we're excited about that. And we're always looking for corporate partners like Volkswagen, who's been a phenomenal partner, to step in and help us continue to grow that program. Chattanooga Football Club Academy has about 850 players from U6 all the way up to U19. And this year we'll probably have the most players from the Chattanooga community that have ever gone on to play college soccer, for a single season. So it's remarkable to see the growth that we've had over the years with having a unified club, which really hadn't existed very long in Chattanooga. until the existence of Chattanooga Football Club Academy. There are a lot of things that we can do a lot better. And over the last several years, those different parts of the Chattanooga Football Club family had started to get more and more siloed. So the academy was becoming siloed from our foundation activities, which was siloed from our women's team, which was siloed from our men's team. And so it was all just kind of like operating independently. And in my life, I'm an integrator, I'm a collaborator. That's the way our board thinks as well. And so what I'm personally waking up every day, and what our board is now waking up every day thinking about, is how do we tie all these things together in a more integrated fashion, and leverage all of the assets and the resources at our disposal, which now that we've got, going on a couple thousand owners, our resources just expanded a couple thousand-fold. So we're really, really pumped about that. And so creating an aligned vision of all of those different parts of the CFC family will do wonders for us in our corporate partnerships and the ways that we partner with our local government and local philanthropy and local business people. So
Sheldon Grizzle, co-founder, president of Chattanooga FC, here with us on Lower League America. Thank you very much for the time, Sheldon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.